All right, folks, how you doing? My name is Tim Black. I'd like to welcome you to a special edition of the Tim Black Show. I'm honored today because I have a great guest, a guest who we all admire. He's an American philosopher, a political activist, a social critic. He's an icon. He's a truth speaker and a healer of all things. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Cornel West.
My dear brother, you know I salute you though, man. What a force for good you've been when it comes to vision, courage, keeping focus on the least of these, and to be able to spend that time with you on the Nina Turner campaign with Sister Sheila, your beloved wife, and my dear brother TJ. He's special, brother. He got a special spirit about him. And of course, you know that magnificent Anahita, man. Anahita's so crazy about y'all. She finally got a chance to meet all of you. And it was just a magnificent time that Anahita and I had together in Cleveland and Akron.
Absolutely, and Anahita is a gem. She's an amazing lady, so gracious, just like yourself, Dr. West. It's like just being in your presence and being there in that moment made it all worthwhile, worth the drive, definitely.
Well, I'm just so very deeply and profoundly blessed to be with her. You know how it is, though, brother, when you get those kind of gifts from heaven, and you got to be very humble enough to see the richness and the depth there. Absolutely.
And I'd like to get right into it, Dr. West, because the time is precious, and I want to thank you again for extending us this time, brother. Brother West, you were out there in the streets of Akron and Cleveland, and you gave it your all. I didn't witness you at every church, but from what I heard, brother, you really spoke truth to power in a way that was so eloquent and so passionate. What are your feelings now that we realize that Nina Turner came just up a little bit too short, a little short here. Chantel Brown, and I don't even want to say came up short. Let me take that back. She was robbed, in my opinion. Nina Turner was robbed, and Chantel ended up being the victor there. So it's not as much as Nina Turner losing, but the establishment winning. What are your thoughts on this, Dr. West, now that you've had time to process?
Well, one is that, on a spiritual level, it was just so magnificent to spend time with brothers and sisters in Akron and Cleveland. I mean, the 7 churches there in Akron, Macedonia, Second Baptist, Mount Zion, the House of Prayer, I could go on and on to different churches. In fact, one church we had, the cars were out there like they in a drive-in movie. And so I was up there speaking, and the Holy Ghost had dialectical interplay with the horns, and the horns was hitting back with the Holy Ghost. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing, a beautiful black thing. That was Mount Zion. Actually, Antioch, we had magnificent thing as well. United that night. So that I just had a good time being with the people. And why is that important? It's because you always have to look at this from the vantage point of the folk who are suffering. And they have been misled for so long that we, of course, acknowledge the revolutionary vision and analysis of our dear brother Glenn Ford, who we lost, founder of Black Agenda Report, talked about the misleadership class, that the everyday people have been misled for so long by the Black establishment and the Democratic Party that's been so tied to corporate money, so tied to big donors, and so tied to moderate policy, too often of austerity, rather than allowing for programs that would empower poor people and working people, especially Black people and working people. And what we found in Sister Nina's campaign, of course, Sister Nina is just so spiritually powerful, morally on top of things, trying to put together a progressive coalition, but over against big money and over against a Black establishment Democratic Party that's been misleading so many Black folk for so long. She won Cleveland. She won Akron. When I talked to her yesterday, she said she actually won based on the votes for election day. She lost because of the absentee ballots. Most of the absentee came from the wealthy districts. She won 5 of the 9 black districts. Now see, Brother Bernie, part of his challenge was with myself and Danny Glover and others, with Adolph Reed Jr. and others, was to try to push the more progressive agenda in the black community. The black community was highly suspicious of Brother Bernie, highly suspicious of myself and others. No, y'all talking that Democratic Socialist talk, that ain't with us. We going with Clyburn. We going with the establishment. We going with the folk who've been in office all this long. It's a black thing. We said, no, Medicare for all is a black thing. Clyburn's connection to the pharmaceutical company, millions of dollars he's received over the last 10 years, that's not a black thing at all. That's wrong. So we continually wrestled with this. What we see in the Nina Turner campaign is you got black everyday people more and more listening very attentively. And that's what I experienced both in the churches, the community centers, the canvases, all the things that we were able to do in part, sometimes even together with you and your blessed family there, you see. So that's very important though, man. That's one of the things I told Nina, you see, that when that big money came in from oil, gas, fossil fuel, the Democratic majority for Israel gave millions some dollars. Why are they concerned about what's happening in Ohio? And they tied this policy in Israel. Well, it's because Nina Turner and like myself come out of the same black church tradition, right? We Jesus-loving free black folk. Nobody tells us who we love. We love everybody. We love Palestinians under vicious Israeli occupation. We love Jews under Russian mistreatment. We love Dalits in India. We love Roma in Europe. We love landless peasants in Brazil. We love Jamal and Letitia in Akron and on the black side of Cleveland. So the love overflows. And that's very important, because if you don't have free black folk, then, you know, all the language in the world mean you still gonna sell your soul though, man. You know, the carrots are too overwhelming. The corruption is so pervasive. You get cronyistic and nepotistic and can't wait to be part of an establishment, to be on television. If that's not tied to service to the least of these, it's empty, man. It's empty. So I do salute Sister Nina in that regard. She's trying to, and she represents a progressive movement, trying to get more stronger roots in the black community. And that's a tough thing. And it was, you know, coming out of the Bernie campaign, she fell back very much on a number of the very important persons in the Bernie campaign. I mean, I think part of the challenge was that because the Bernie campaign itself had tremendous problems being rooted in the black community, that you had a number of our vanilla brothers and sisters who jumped on board of Nina's campaign. That's a beautiful thing. I love that. But at the same time, it meant then that a lot of the grassroots black people still had a certain suspicion. And that's the suspicion that we have to overcome. Now, you probably heard last day, Brother Bakari Sellers showed up.
Yes, he did.
And he and I did a thing together, you know, and, you know, that was a fascinating moment, because, I mean, Bakari, he has been so tied to very, very right-wing Jewish lobbyists in terms of money and status and so forth. Very tied to Biden, and of course, you know, very close to Kamala Harris. But he said he loved Nina, he wanted to come out. Well, the question then becomes, you know, how do you have a campaign that keeps its moral and spiritual content and substance, and yet also has an openness to the Bakari Sellers of the world, who made it very clear he is wholesale Democratic establishment, wholesale black establishment, but he might be running against Clyburn in South Carolina, so he may be trying to get a little What is your take on what's happening?
Well, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I was put off that he came out.
Yes, yes.
He had a canned.
Anahita was very.
Yeah, he had a canned speech as
we
well.
had a rich conversation about that.
Yeah. He came out. He spoke just before you or after you. I can't remember.
It was before me.
Before you, yeah.
Right at the canvas.
And the words were somewhat impressive at first, and then he went into blaming us for division, and he went into some lame talking points. And then at the next rally, the next day, he did the same speech. And now this rally I spoke at, it was like the last canvassing act, get out the vote.
I didn't know that. That's nice. That's good to know. Now, did you get a chance? Because he came after me, so I couldn't correct. Did you go after him this time?
I went before him.
Oh.
He had to follow me, brother.
So what did you say?
I brought the fire, brother. I brought the fire. I talked about Chantel Brown and the dirty money. I talked about her stances. I talked about her inability to actually fight for black folks and how black people need not just black faces in high places, but black faces willing to fight the fight and willing to speak truth to power. And Chantel Brown didn't have any of that. So back to Bakari. We'll see what he does, brother.
And what kind of response did he have to your powerful analysis?
He was tepid. But Danny Glover, brother Glover, after my speech, Dr. West, Danny Glover, he was about to leave. He stopped his car, and a young lady that travels with him said, "Excuse me, Mr. Black, Mr. Glover would like to have a word with you." He got out of his car, Dr. West, and came over to me and told me how much he loved my speech and how impressed he was. And he was passing the baton to a brother. You understand what I'm saying?
That is powerful. You know, Danny Glover goes all the way back to Harry Belafonte, Martin Luther King Jr., the legacy of Paul Robeson. It doesn't get deeper than that, Brother Tim.
So
I like that baton tossing, handing it right to you, man.
So Bakari didn't give me the love, but I'm okay because I got the love from Mr. Glover, so I'm good.
Lord. But what does one do about that when you have invitations of establishment figures like Brother Bakari to want to be there, and people say, no, but this campaign is a campaign about this. Now, you always open everybody's vote. I mean, politics is politics. It's just dirty, messy, and Machiavellian. But you also want people to be clear that this is where you stand in regard to working people, foreign policy, the economy, and so forth.
Well, I don't fault Nina for trying to, how can I say this? If Bakari is sincere in his approach and he means what he says, maybe he's trying to revamp his image. I mean, there's always room for redemption or modification. People go from different, you've told me that people change over time, and who people are in the beginning may not be who they end up being, so we got to leave room for growth. But I'm going to need to see it on a different level other than just that particular rally. But I guess we got to leave room for a brother to right his ways. I mean, if you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Talk. We want to see some action.
There it is.
We want to see some deeds. You're absolutely right about that. But what is your read, my brother, of what happened with Sister Nina?
Yeah, well, I had my reservations about the way that the canvassing was going. I was just concerned there weren't enough black people seeing black people out there canvassing for her. And I called her up and I talked to her about it, and she assured me that, hey, Chantel Brown wish she had a number of volunteers that we have, and wish she had the foot soldiers and the people contributing. So as I'm looking at the numbers now, Dr. West, I understand what happened. We have people who are doing pretty well who don't see the urgency of electing a Nina Turner. In fact, they see the opposite. They see the danger of a Nina Turner. And being that was an open primary, we got Republicans who switched to Democrat to vote against Nina Turner and against the interests of poor people in Akron. You know, 40% of the kids in Akron live beneath the poverty line. Black kids underneath the poverty line. They didn't care about that. What they were concerned about was the bowl that Nina talked about a year ago, and some words she made about supporting Palestinians and the peace and the worthiness and the humanity of all people. So that was a problem for them. So looking at it now that I know, I just want people to realize that don't blame black people for this. And don't blame working white people either, because working class white people came out and supported Nina, and black folks came out and supported Nina. This was about the suburbs, those wealthy enclaves, those communities where people are well-to-do. Those are the people that went with Chantel. It's the other way. So that narrative that they're putting out there, Dr. West, is factually incorrect. It was not, Nina needs to get more black people. No, Tara Samples Mosley, councilwoman out there in Akron, she hit me up bright and early this morning with an article showing the data. I got data that shows it. And I'm going to put that in the link description below so that people can go read the article and read the numbers.
That's very important. So what was the percentage of black brothers and sisters who did support our dear sister Nina?
Well, what I have right in front of me is what you also pointed out at the start of the show, is that there are 9, the Akron areas. Right.
That's
so
right. You got 9 of them. Nina got 5 of them.
Nina got 5 of them, but the other 4, she only lost by 1 or 2 points. You know, so she did very well, man. And there was only a difference of what, 4,200 votes? A margin of 4,200 votes. Mail-in ballots have yet to been counted, so we still haven't got all the votes in to know exactly. But there's a community that supports the DMFI, 100,000 strong, and they were very committed to stopping Nina Turner. And if it's 100,000 of them, and they're all able and capable of voting in this primary because it's an open election. Some may be Democrats, some may not be. But there goes your 5,000 or so votes that make all the difference.
Good God Almighty. But you can see how foreign policy gets connected to local election these days, tied to the big money. That's another reason why we have to be much more courageous and vocal in terms of talking about some of the deeply xenophobic forces in Israel itself, you know, the Netanyahus and the others who have supporters in the United States who will then enter local elections and talk about other issues, but the one issue they're fundamentally concerned about is not focusing on justice for the Palestinians. Because, man, I think that, you know, the DMI, Democratic Majority for Israel, they got a right to be wrong. I'm a libertarian about this. They got a right to be wrong. But we got to tell the world and the country they are wrong. And you got a whole lot of progressive Jewish brothers and sisters who pointing out how wrong they are, how callous they are vis-a-vis Palestinians, how indifferent they are to the plight of Palestinians under a vicious Israeli occupation. And those Jewish voices in the United States are growing. We had a number of wonderful Jewish brothers and sisters who were part of Nina Turner's campaign.
That's right.
Bernie himself. But I mean, I'm talking about on the ground, canvassing in various communities with us in Akron, you know, going to the black churches. We had a multiracial group going to the churches. Well, I was there with Sister Tara.
Yes, I saw that at the breakfast. I did,
Samples,
yes.
You know, on City Council, she's strong in her own Akron community. And of course, I talked about not just LeBron James, but James Ingram,
okay,
just passed just recently, and the great Howard Hewitt, who's enriched my life in a powerful way, not just with Shalimar, but with other. He come out of Bethel. That's all Akron. We ain't got to switch yet on these members of Switch when it comes to the music community. So that spirituality in an Akron with us 40%. Precious black youth living in vicious poverty in the richest nation, the history of the world, is the crime against humanity. But they fighting. All you got to do is go to those churches, go to the blocks, go to the barbershops, go to the beauty salons. You see the black folk fighting. That's where the focus must be. There was a recent piece you may have seen in Jacobin. I saw where he was talking about it was a defeat for Sister Nina and ourselves in terms of progressive politics, no doubt. But in terms of class politics, there was movement. Because keep in mind the framework, though, brothers. In the 1960s, you got vicious American apartheid, monstrous Jim Crow. We break the back of American apartheid, and 2 results follow therefrom. The new Jim Crow, mass incarceration for black poor and black working class, dilapidated housing, decrepit school systems, not enough jobs with a living wage, the invasion of drugs and guns, shattered families and communities. Then on the other side, you have the mass incorporation of the Black middle class into the system, into the mainstream. Unprecedented opportunities for the Black bourgeoisie. And the question becomes, what will be the relation of that bourgeoisie to the Black poor and the Black working class? I was just blessed to write a introduction for the 60th anniversary of Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth. Got to be out in October. Classic. Why? Because Frantz Fanon saw the ways in which the dominant orientation of bourgeoisies, no matter what color they are, is too often massive neglect and pervasive betrayal of Black poor and Black working class people. And that's not to generate some kind of, hatred against the Black bourgeoisie. No, Martin Luther King Jr. was Black bourgeoisie. He loved poor people. We got a whole wave. Danny Glover's Black bourgeoisie. He loved poor people. Like page 44, we mentioned again, of the miseducation of the Negro. Highly educated Negroes must fall in love with their Black people, no matter who they are. That's Carter G. Woodson, Harvard. That's why he only taught 1 year his whole life in the university at Howard and got pushed out of Howard, spent a little time at West Virginia University. That was it, because he was too radical for them. But that is the kind of analysis we need. That's why what you do is so important, man. I'm telling you. What you do, what Glimmer's doing, Margaret doing, Jamo's doing. How do we keep the love of the poor and working class beginning on the Black side of town and then calling for solidarity? But the solidarity must never downplay the specificity of the Black situation.
That's right.
What I mean by that is the way in which white supremacy and predatory capitalism are both intertwined. You can't talk about one without the other.
Thank you.
You see, that's what our dear brother Cedric Robinson was talking about in the about racial capitalism, about Black Marxism. You got to be a truth teller, and the condition of telling that truth is to focus on the suffering of the most vulnerable. That's the tradition that has made the Black freedom struggle at its best one of the grandest in the modern world. And so Nina, in that regard, she told me, and she probably told you, she said, I'm mad, sad, and resolute. I love that. Because I told her, I said, that section in Love Supreme by John Coltrane, resolution. How do you be resolute in your pursuance of service to others? See, that's the key. And we had a wonderful talk. I ended up being inspired, and I hope I said something to inspire her. And we had so many precious memories with all of us there. At the very end, we was at Sister Renee's place. Remember Sister Renee?
Yes.
Strong Black sister, got her own business. She had a wonderful dialogue with blessed, magnificent Anahita at the very end.
Oh, she did. Okay. Amazing establishment, amazing food.
Deep reflection to
you asked me earlier what were some of the numbers, Dr. West, and all I had to do was flip the page. And I just want to give people some of this. Now, once again, I'm going to list this in the description box below. But I want you to realize that these suburban places where people are more well-to-do, this is where we had the problem. And this is big because we're penetrating working people. Yes. Working class folks are getting the message. This is a place called Beechwood. Brown got 81% of the vote. Turner only 19% of the vote. Okay, that's one of those predominant locations of people more affluent. University Heights, Brown with 1,300, almost 1,400 of the vote. Turner with only 795, or a margin of 571. So wow. Cleveland Heights, it goes on, 688 to 216, margin 472. Pepper Pike, 863 to 260, 603 margin. So these just keep going, and so just give people an idea of it's a 500 margin in an affluent town, and another town is 1,000, and these numbers start to add up. But in the epicenter in Cleveland, generally speaking, in Akron, Nina Turner did very well with working class folks. So this is important because that was, as Dr. West pointed out, that was the knock on the Bernie campaign, and we've seen them make progress in that area. So we should feel resolute in that and feel some cause for inspiration.
Absolutely. And it's so important that we continually call into question the dominant narrative of the establishment that wants to say, okay, the lesson of the campaign is we're all going moderate, we're all going centrist. This is going to be pro-Biden across the board. We don't have to worry about the challenges of the progressive left anymore in the Democratic Party. And that is the exact opposite of what needs to be drawn.
Yeah, I read. It was an article. Not to cut you off, Doctor. There was an article in the Washington Post, an opinion piece. You may have saw that. Well, that's exactly what they're saying.
I didn't see what were they talking about?
Exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. that this shows that that Joe Biden did not pay attention to the left, to the progressive wing of the party. They don't no longer need to listen, and that kind of brings me to a question I have for you, because it's disheartening, Dr. West, and I have people that they're so sour about Democrats. They say don't vote for any Democrat. Not any Democrat, not a Nina Turner. And I look at that and I understand the frustration, but how can you say you love black people living in these areas and then say don't vote for the person who is, I mean, there is no comparison between Chantel and Nina Turner of what good she could do and who she's going to advocate for. These are the same people that supported Nina a year ago. But now that they are so sour because of the 2020 election, they're so bitter that now they're saying don't vote for anybody. And not just saying it to themselves, they're using their platforms, Dr. West, to tell other people don't donate to Nina Turner, don't donate to any Democrat, don't in any circumstance. And those people, I think, are detrimental. I'm going to talk about it tonight on my show, but I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. But I'm like you, though, brother. I resonate with the anger, the rage, and the frustration of the milquetoast character of most of the Democratic Party. And that therefore people do find themselves going as far as saying we ought to have nothing to do whatsoever with any member of that party, because so many members of that party turn their back on Black, poor, and working people. So I do resonate with that. But I also resonate with what you say in terms of the lived experience of Black people. And that if you do not have a strong, concrete alternative, I mean, if there was a third party candidate who was strong, I'm there. Mm-hmm. Ain't no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
And more likely, Nina would be there too. Nina would be there too. She's not tied to some Democratic Party eternally. Her allegiance is to the people. She just figures the way things are structured, you have to be able to have some kind of presence such that you can produce some concrete results. And so I'm always not just open for third party formation, but I support third party formations. I supported third party formation going all the way back to the National Black Independent Political Party, what we founded in Philadelphia in 1980 in the high school. I can still see Manny Marable right now helping put that thing together, you see. The same would be true in terms of the Green Party. I support Green Party candidates, absolutely. Brother Bruce Dixon, who was again Black Agenda Report, so close to our dear brother Glenn, both of those towering figures. Part of the legacy of Ida B. Wells in terms of journalism, just like yourself. You see, he was tied to the Green Party. I worked with him in Georgia and other places in the country, you see. So that I do understand people's critique of the Democratic Party, and yet you got to work with what you got and do what you can, but still be visionary enough to tell the truth about the limitations of the present institutions in which you find yourself. That's what it is to be a jazz woman and a jazz man dealing with this decadence, dealing with this rot that has to do with the indifference toward poor people. That's why we do what we do. And that's why we end up getting criticized. You know, people coming at me all the time. Oh, Brother West, you know, it look like you ain't never in one place for long enough that people know what you really are. Are you a Democrat? No, I ain't never been a member of the Democratic Party. But I've been a member of the Democratic Platform Committee because Brother Bernie asked me to be. Hey, absolutely.
I get it. I totally get it.
Absolutely. I'm going to work with my churches. I'm going to work with my mosque. We had a wonderful gathering at the Islamic Center that was put together by another wonderful Iranian sister who became very close to Anahita. Haraki, did you meet her?
I don't think I had the pleasure. No, I don't think so.
He put together this thing at the Islamic Center that was powerful, man, with Keith Ellison and Nina, and you had all the imams there reflecting, and I'm telling them quite explicitly, Malcolm X, greatest athlete, Malcolm X, the greatest revolutionary voice to come out of Black American 20th century, Muhammad Ali, the greatest athlete, Rakim, the greatest hip hop artist, the John Coltrane in hip hop, all three of them, Muslims. The most God-intoxicated jazz musician in the history of the world, John Coltrane's wife was Naima, Muslim, first wife. See, so we've had some great Muslims come out of our tradition. I say that as a Christian. And I don't exist without them. And so we're able to open this thing and show the ways in which solidarity must be rooted in something moral and something spiritual, even given all of our limitations. Because, I believe we all got gangster proclivities now. So I ain't talking about purity. Never, ever, 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 ever. I'm talking about integrity. I'm talking about consistency.
Imperfect.
Absolutely. And yet, so that in that sense, our movement is still unstoppable, even given this relative defeat.
That's right. And once again, just to underscore what Dr. West, what you're saying here, brother, it's people can't wait. So I look at it like forming a third party is a 10-year, 20-year, 50-year process. Now, of course, something could change that I don't see coming in the horizon, and that time, that window could be shorter, or it could be longer. But meanwhile, we got to live here,
That's exactly right.
And to use your analogy, when you talk about music, I'm pretty sure, Miles Davis didn't want to go through no back doors to play his music, going to rear, but if he never did that, we never would have heard him on this stage. So sometimes you gotta do what you have to do in order to get on the stage to do your thing. And the way this is set up, like, what was you gonna do? There's a chitlin circuit. Yeah, we could play the chitlin circuit, but we also need to be on those airwaves, bro. So these folks who are my way or the highway, either you do it this way or there's no support. I'm telling you, man, I do this, Dr. West, man, because I believe that there are people in positions that need me to do it, right? I'm just not here to do well for myself. I'm here to do good for others. That's the reason why you do this type of work, because this ain't where the money at, Dr. West.
Oh, you ain't lying.
This
ain't
ain't
no
it.
doubt about that. That's true for both of us. Lord, I got colleagues making 4 times as much as I do. Who cares? As long as I got some cash flow to keep me moving, I'm a free brother. I'm going to be free until the worms get me. But I tell you this, though, this is where you and Miles are very similar. And you're very dissimilar, Miles, in terms of your family, though, because you got magnificent loved ones, and Miles has some challenges there, but his genius was in his horn. And when he got on the stage, and what did he do? Sometimes he turned his back to the people on the stage. Now, what was he doing? He was saying, look, I'm not here so happy with my smile that I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, like I'm some kind of narrow entertainer. I'm a great artist tied to Louis Armstrong, Ray Eldridge, and Clark Terry. Do you know who Dizzy Gillespie is? Do you know who Mary Lou Williams is? I'm going to turn my back to you sometimes so I can hear the sound of my band, so I can give a better performance, but I ain't here just for you. I'm here to keep my tradition strong and deep and expanded. That's Miles out of East St. Louis. That's Tim Black. I ain't doing this radio show just trying to make some kind of money for status and spectacle, project the image so I could be some highly successful Negro that people talk about me in terms of living vicariously through me with all of my status and celebrity orientation. No, I'm a servant of the people. I'm gonna tell the truth. And the beautiful thing is, Brother Tim, your truth telling is expanding your audience. You get more and more folk, is that right? More and more folk building They listening. They see your heart. They see your mind. They see your soul. They see your vision. They see your courage. Am I telling the truth?
You're telling the truth, brother.
Nina's
Nina's father came up to me and told me he's a big supporter of my show. He loves my show. Her sister came up to me and said, we watch your show and we love you putting it down and saying some things that can't say. So thank you so much, Tim Black. We took pictures and everything. And of course, your amazing wife did the same thing, and I'm just floored by it. And I had no idea these people are watching. I think it's just my little wolf pack.
All the time. You know, Nina's father, who's a Muslim brother, is a gem and a Jew. So are her sisters. Their family's black nobility right there in Cleveland, just like the Leverts. Gerald the son, Eddie the father. That's black nobility. Bobby Womack, Cleveland, black nobility. So it is with the father of Nina, the sisters of Nina, and they were all there together. You remember?
That's right.
All there together. All of us embracing each other. Renee's place and in so many other contexts as well, though, man. So I just want you to be buoyed up. I want you to be encouraged and continue to be inspired, because the flame that's inside of you can never be put out, brother. It's like the burning bush in the Hebrew scripture. It can't be put out. It can never be consumed. And it's because you got the love of the people, man. And it's just that simple. Really, it is. If you love the people, you hate the fact they're being treated unjustly. If you love the people, you loathe the fact that they're being treated unfairly. And if you don't do something, the rocks are gonna shout out from the very walls and streets in which people find themselves. That's the kind of tradition we come from. Now, of course, you know, the result is you carry a heavy cross. We have to be very honest about that. Yeah. There's major costs to be born. There's major burdens to be born and board.
Certain doors won't open. And hey, doors won't open. Some people leaning on the doors from the inside. That's what they nailing them doors shut. You got me? So I had a conversation with a brother, Dr. Jason Johnson, out there on MSNBC, and he in my DMs laughing about Nina. Laughing about it, putting out articles and agree up there, making a mockery of the campaign. He called you and Brother Glover and Keith Ellison carpetbaggers who came to town to hijack the vote. That's what he called.
Right?
That's right. He didn't list anything about the dark money coming in. You know, he said Nina Turner had all this money and she blew her league. He didn't talk at all about Nina Turner raised this amount of money, Brother West, but that's a total amount for the campaign. We had millions come in at the last month and drop it on the campaign. Drop it on the airwaves.
Republican Trump donors.
He didn't even mention
Gave the Sister Brown. Jason ought to be ashamed of himself, but he's so tired to, I guess, the establishment in his own way. He didn't say nothing about the Democratic majority for Israel, though, did he?
Nothing, not a word. Or the third way. Or the third way, $250,000, nothing to sneeze at. Just in flyers, just in misleading pamphlets. A couple days before the election.
Lying on Nina.
She don't support Dr. West. She don't support.
Reporting it out, saying they were lying on Nina and not giving people a chance to counter it. You know, it's just, please. And I'm a carpetbagger because me and Anna had to come from California in order to try to be forces for good. A carpetbagger.
Yep. That's him.
I can only love black folk in my little neighborhood.
That's all.
I can't love black folk in Akron. Howard Hewitt loved me. He from Akron. I can't love the black folk in Akron. I can't love the black folk in Cleveland. Jason ought to get off his crack pipe and recognize he's too well adjusted to injustice at this moment in what he had to say. Now, I don't know what his whole life is like. I don't know what his whole orientation is like, but he strikes me as another milquetoast black neoliberal saying that kind of thing. Am I being fair?
Yeah, he's a buttermilk biscuit eating coon. He's a Django. He's a Stephen from Django stand-in is what he is. And they had those line ads on every poll imaginable from every cable news show, the radio show. They had it on billboards. They had lies on pamphlets, and they had it on stop signs and telephone poles and stripper poles. They had it on every pole, every place imaginable was lies about Nina. And this guy would not speak truth to power. And it's a shame, brother. It's a shame. It's a shame.
No. But sooner or later, people get exposed. Truth crushed the earth will rise again, and no lie lives forever. And we're talking about him. You're talking about, many members of the Black Congressional Caucus. That Black Congressional Caucus PAC, which is different than a caucus, they made their big money. They brought in Brother Thompson from Mississippi, and he told me, we don't need anybody coming up in here and raising their voices so loud and tearing things up. How you think they broke the back of Jim Crow in Mississippi, brother? What kind of language did Jesus use when he ran out of the money changers in Jerusalem? It was the largest edifice east of Rome with troops and bankers and artists all around the temple. He went into the temple, turned over the tables, ran the money changers out. What kind of language do you think he used? It wasn't polite. That's the reason why he went to the cross. He was crucified because he ran out the money changers. That's the tradition that we come out of that breaks the back of apartheid, that pushes back predatory capitalism and all of its deep greed and avarice. That's the tradition we have that allow self-love and self-respect and self-determination among a hated people like Black people, and yet we teaching the world so much about love. Benny and them ought to be ashamed of themselves. Seriously. Because it's not just a political issue. I don't give a god dang what Hillary Clinton and all of the establishment folks think of Obama and these other people. We talk about the masses on the street. And if they can't talk about the masses on the street, then go on to their cocktail parties and go on and live their little deodorized lives and let us have to come to terms with the funk of the suffering. That's what we're talking about, see? And that's where we headed. Because believe me, as we move year in and year out, this class issue and racial issue and capitalist issue will become more apparent. And similarly so with the militarism, not just in the Middle East, the militarism in Africa, with AFRICOM expanding, in Latin America, we see it in Haiti, and so forth and so on. And we have to be consistent, that's all. We have to be consistent. And so we should never think that, it's anti-Semitic to love Palestinian brothers and sisters. No, we love our Palestinian brothers and sisters just like we love our Jewish brothers and sisters. And a Palestinian baby has exactly the same value as a Jewish baby, period. Because nobody defines and tries to circumscribe how we love and how we define reality in light of that love. And if you can't do that, then you're not free.
That's right.
You're in bondage. And most of our Black leadership, including Black political leadership, they're in bondage. They can't even talk about their love for Palestinians at all, but they go to church. Many of them go to church every Sunday. Oh, I see. Love thy neighbor, everybody but Palestinians? Yep. Please. There was a time when love thy neighbor meant everybody but Jews. That's wrong too. Yeah. That's just as wrong. But now the Palestinians taboo. Can't love them. No, when they babies get killed, 500 of them, and what was it in 2008? 500 babies in 50 days. Not one Black politician could say a mumbling word. That's nothing but cowardliness. They intimidated, they scared. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. And somebody got to say it. We had to say it over and over again. We can say it in love. I love the Black Congressional Caucus as human beings and as Black brothers and sisters. And we can come together on voting rights. We fight on voting rights. Absolutely. They're right about that. Even Biden has been slow on that. But when it comes to other moral and spiritual issues of poverty and corporate power and Wall Street and so forth and so on, please step in the room, have a debate with Brother Tim Black and see how long you last.
Right.
Because you bring it as a contradiction. See, you bring it.
Because I don't have, look, I can't be canceled because they don't pay me. So that's a problem for them. They don't know what I'm going to say. But they realize what I say is going to be what I believe. So that's a problem for them. They don't want that.
But I tell you one thing, brother, you need a fundraiser, you give me a call.
Yeah, well, brother, I
I
surely
just thought
appreciate
about
that.
that right now on the spot. I'm sorry I can't sing a song like Prince, but you need a fundraiser, brother. You give me a call, man. I might not have a guitar or nothing, but I can do whatever I can do to be supportive, definitely. And it's a cacophony of voices. None of us are isolated.
Right.
There's a number of voices that are out there saying.
As long as they're uncompromising, Dr. West, you got to be uncompromising on this. You can't back into blackness and say little stuff, afraid you're gonna lose your audience. You got to be adamant in your advocacy for the most vulnerable people. Or if not, you're just wasting our damn time. And I can't co-sign that, and I won't.
That's exactly right, though, brother.
That's it, man. So that's why.
And that's why Fannie Lou Hamer smiled at you from the grave. You know what? Her smile has more weight and gravity than the whole Black Congressional Caucus squared. Because it sets the higher moral and spiritual standard. Same would be true for our dear brother Bob Moses, who we just lost. God bless him, Sister Janet and the children and so on, you see. They set a high standard. They set a high standard.
Well, Dr. West, before, I know your schedule's a little tight, but just before you go, there are people watching, my Tim Black Wolfpack, members of the people that keep us doing what we do. Some of them, I'm without question, are a little down right now. I don't want to give them this a kumbaya speech, but I do want them to know, as you said, as Nina Turner put it, she's resolute. She's upset. I don't want to take the words out of context, but what would you say to them about this moment, about what we need to do going forward?
Well, Sister Nina said she's sad, mad, and resolute. Sad, mad, and resolute. Coltrane got a section called Resolution. How do you remain resolute in your pursuance of love and justice? And you only do that by being in community with others, having your soul intact in such a way that you're willing to tell the truth no matter what cost you have to bear, because you're tied to something bigger and grander than you. Now, you are a cracked vessel, so we're not talking about self-righteousness here. All of us fall on our faces, and that's why we need each other to bounce back. My talking to you helps my bounce back. Sister Sheila, TJ, Anahita, family, bounce back, crucial. Then we got the voices of the past. Woo! Lord have mercy. W.B. Du Bois, what you got to say about predatory capitalism and white supremacy as it connects to the United States, including Ohio and Cleveland and Akron? Bounce back. Analysis, vision, organizing, mobilizing, but putting spirit at the center. Because when you have love at the center, you got something the world can't take away. The love of your mama. Can't nobody take that away. Ever. Memory of those who came before that empowered you. Nobody can take away, even in a sale, as our dear brother H. Rap Brown, Imam Jamil. I just did a thing for him on the 15th of August, having a press conference. Tried to get him out of that prison in Tucson, Arizona, you see. He got something inside of him so deep, that's so rich. His love for Black people and oppressed people so profound, they can't take it away in the sale. That's what we have to have in order to keep it on, as Curtis Mayfield would put it.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. West, for your words of encouragement, your truth-telling, and your presence. And folks, I'm very grateful for having this opportunity. And Dr. West, once again, thank you so much for your time, brother. Folks, you know what Dr. Cornel West is, and you know where to follow him. And I'm just blown away. Folks, I'll just say to tag on, if we give up, we'll still have what we have, which is what we don't need. So,
that's powerful, brother.
If we quit now, we're going to resign ourselves to this situation. So I don't think we have a choice but to go forward. I don't want to just say, let's fight the good fight, but what else can you do? Like, what else? Can we just accept this? And I don't think, I know I can't. And the core of me cannot accept this. It's the plight, not just for me, but for my children and my children's children. I want my legacy to show that I stood up. And regardless of how this ends up, and if I'm allowed to see it, I have to do my part in taking my people and this country in the right direction for my people. So if you are of that number, you feel the same way, you got to stay on the train, baby. You got to keep going, right, Dr. West?
Stay on that train. As Gwendolyn Brooks say, for my people. Curtis Mayfield say, people get ready to get on that justice train, that love train. Don't need no ticket, just get on board. But you're going to need some courage and commitment and conviction and history and vision and community and organizing and mobilizing. But just keep that smile and keep that style. That's a crucial thing too, though, man. We are people with style and smile.
That's it. Well, that's it, guys. I'll see you tonight for Freedom Friday, where people get to call in. Dr. Cornel West, they get to call into my show, so it's not a one-way conversation. We got phone lines, so we do phone lines tonight. So I'm looking forward to hearing from everybody. Once again, this is the Tim Black Show. I see you tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Salute you. Love you, love you, love you, brother.
Love you back. Wolfpack. All right, now.